The games just keep on coming. I feared we'd get nothing from Bournemouth and Chelsea, and I was proven right. And I hate to say it, but I fear Rangers will have their day in the sun too tomorrow night. And as a result, I'm really starting to fear for Ange Postecoglu's future. That's not helped by reports from journalists that Tottenham are indeed succession planning for whenever Ange departs, and a Premier League boss who used to play for Spurs is high on the list. Meanwhile, we've also apparently made a bid for an exciting striker. All this and more on today's episode of the Spurred On podcast. Guys, as ever, thank you so much for your support, for watching and listening. Please do give this video a like to get it seen by as many Spurs fans as possible. Also, do press subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to my channel. I bring you daily Tottenham Hotspur content, and as the transfer window gets closer, I'll be doing daily transfer news from Spurs and across the Premier League and beyond. You can also listen on the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Just go over there, type in the Spurred On podcast, and give me a subscribe or a follow. But the news coming out yesterday from Dan Kilpatrick is that Tottenham have made a large financial offer for Lille striker Jonathan David, and they are keen to agree a pre-contract deal this January ahead of him becoming a free transfer in the summer. Spurs are apparently prepared to wait, but not for long. Signing another forward in the January transfer window is a priority for Spurs, according to Kilpatrick. Now, Jonathan David has been on Tottenham's list for a long time, since last summer, and even last January it was being talked about. He is an exciting young striker, and let's face it, if we lose Dominic Solanke to injury the way we've been losing pretty much everybody else in the spine of our team, then we are frankly buggered, aren't we? So you can see why Tottenham are very keen to bolster their ranks with a striker. As I mentioned, talked about that they want him on a pre-contract agreement, a pre-contract signing, which would mean that he signs the deal in January but moves for free in the summer. Now, I am asking Tottenham whether maybe they can be a little bit braver, a little bit more progressive, a little bit more forward-thinking, and actually try and give Lille some money now to get David in this January to help Solanke out. He's doing so much running. He is just pressing so high and so hard all the time, and you can just imagine. Previously, we were saying the one player we can't afford to get injured is Vicario. Well, it happened. Who else can we not afford to get injured? Romero and Van de Ven. Well, it's happened time and time again, and now the real player, along with Kulusevski, but I'd say more than Kulusevski, that we absolutely cannot afford to lose is Dominic Solanke. He's been one of the few bright points of this season. And if they do indeed plan on bringing in another forward to spread the workload with Solanke, then bring it forward to January. You'll be able to get David relatively cheaply in January, maybe for like between 15 and 20 million, just like when we sold Eriksen to Inter Milan. And then he will be in straight away and be able to help us for the rest of the season. That could be the difference between us winning a trophy and not winning a trophy, or getting in the top 7 and not getting in the top 7. I mean, what are we, like 13th or 11th or something at the moment? So it's not looking likely. So I wouldn't be holding out till the summer. Bring some budget forward. That is what I'm begging Spurs to do. Also, Dan Kilpatrick yesterday said that with Spurs short of cover at both centre-back and left-back, a player who could cover both positions may emerge as a priority target this January. Well, that does at least make sense. We left Ange Postecoglu short, didn't we, in the summer of cover for both Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie. Obviously, Archie Gray has filled in where he can. Jed Spence was given a new contract but is not trusted by Ange Postecoglu, and I think that is very fair to say. Postecoglu did come out with some quotes last week saying he likes Jed Spence. He can see him playing some games over this Christmas period, but that he doesn't trust him. He didn't say not trust, but it's clear from what he was saying that he doesn't trust him to play a number of games in a row, and probably not even to start games at this point. A lot of fans are not understanding why Jed Spence doesn't get a chance. They're begging for him to play more. However, we don't see him in training every day. There must be reasons. There has to be reasons why Big Ange doesn't want to put him in. And yeah, I mean, he did okay, didn't he, when he played against Coventry, got a goal, but you got to trust the fact that the manager sees these players every day. So yeah, as Kilpatrick says, A cover for left back and centre back this January is where they're looking, but as ever, January so difficult to get players in, so difficult to persuade other clubs to sell their best players, and you really do have to pay over the odds. There are so many taxes when it comes to buying players these days. There's the January tax, the English club to English club tax, the English player tax. Just very difficult. I'm not sure exactly who that player who can play centre back and left back would be. Let me know in the comments if you've got any ITK or if you know any players who you think would be perfect for that role to come in at Spurs, who can play kind of left back and centre back this January. Who would you like to see us bring in? Meanwhile, Tottenham also reported to be battling Manchester United for Southampton wonder boy Tyler Dibbling. He did join Chelsea from Southampton back in 2022. I hadn't remembered this actually, but just did my research this morning. But he quickly got homesick and returned to Southampton 6 months later. He is now ripping it up for Southampton in the Premier League. He will be playing Spurs at the weekend, so that's another script undoubtedly going to be written, the way that the script was written for Howson to score against Spurs for Bournemouth just the other week. He's clearly an exciting player, Tyler Dibbling, but is it a red flag for you that he made a big move already to Chelsea just a couple of years ago, but got homesick and kind of insisted on moving back to Southampton? Is that something that would make you think again about taking a risk on what would, I'm sure, be £20 million or something like that to get him out, because he's a Premier League player now and a young British player as well? Let me know what you think of Dibbling in the comments below. Is he a player you'd like to see at Spurs? Other news, Richarlison continues to not only be unable to get on the football pitch for Tottenham Hotspur because of his injury problems, but he continues apparently to reject inquiries from the Saudi Pro League. As of right now, he is not interested in leaving Spurs, and he has an ultimate goal on his mind, which is to put his injury struggles behind him and return to the Brazilian national team ahead of the 2026 World Cup. Well, listen, I love the commitment of Richarlison. I love the fact that he rates himself enough that he wants to be Brazil's number 9, but he needs to be doing something different to get his body sorted out so he can get on the pitch for Spurs. We spent a lot of money on this player, and I'm sorry to sound a bit frustrated about him. I like him as a boy. I like him as a player. But just the same as Lo Celso, doesn't get on the pitch enough for Tottenham Hotspur, and he needs to. And you can understand that Ange Postecoglu and the recruitment team would be getting frustrated with him and basically keen for him to move to the Saudi Pro League, probably thinking they can get their money back and spend it elsewhere where we could get players on the pitch. So I think Richarlison's very much in the last chance saloon when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. And all we can hope is that come the beginning of next calendar year, come 2025, he gets himself fit and can get a good run in the side, kind of coming in and off the bench or replacing Solanke so that Solanke can have some minutes and get on a goal-scoring run again like he did last season. Because when he plays games and he gets on a roll, he can do it. You know he can. 11 in 12 games last season. Remember those 2 goals he scored at Goodison Park? Really up to his best form. But again, an injury put paid to that, as it has put paid to his season so far this year. I'm sure you saw, but in case you didn't, Howard Webb has come out, the head of the Referees Association, and given his thoughts on whether Moise Caicedo should have been sent off against Tottenham. Now, what I will say, that's for Chelsea, obviously. What I will say is, I do think personally Caicedo should have been sent off. I thought it was a reckless challenge. It was over the top of the ball. It was high on the ankle, and I think there was excessive force there. However, I do also think Kulusevski should have been sent off in that game for Spurs. So that kind of levels it up. And I'm not saying that Caicedo not being sent off is the reason we lost that game. But I would also say if Caicedo had got sent off, I think it's less likely that Kulusevski would have put an elbow into the head of the Chelsea defender. But this is what Howard Webb said. He said, I think his actions were reckless and a yellow card should have been shown. But for me, it's not a red card. Well, for me, Howard Webb, that is you trying to protect your referee. And to be honest, it doesn't surprise me that you're trying to protect your referee right now because of what's happened with David Coote. David Coote, the referee who was caught on camera slagging off Jurgen Klopp and allegedly, sniffing a white powder on camera. That was a video that was given, I think, to one of the tabloid newspapers. He has just been sacked from his job in the last 2 days. He's been relieved of his duties. The PGMOL claiming that they're trying to support him and protect him, but clearly not. And whoever David Coote's friends are who released that video, just imagine. I mean, he shouldn't have done it. Of course he shouldn't have done it. It's your profession. That's the one thing you've got to be careful about. But what kind of friends are there? But anyway, Howard Webb this week, having had to sack one of his top referees, clearly trying to support one of his other referees. Let me know in the comments below, though. Did you think it was a red card for Caicedo, or am I just being, looking for reasons why we lost that game? But I thought it was a red card, but I also thought Kulusevski's was a red card as well. Now, back onto the ENIC out and Levy out situation. There are Spurs supporters who are planning to protest against the ownership ahead of the match against Liverpool on the 22nd of December, amidst calls for change from both inside and outside the club, with the likes of Christian Romero and Jamie Carragher suggesting that the club's owners are at the heart of Spurs' lack of progress on the pitch in recent years. So, we've seen this a few times down the years, haven't we? And I think what frustrates me a little bit about it, I mean, it's human nature, of course it is, but those people who really want ENIC out and Levy out, when the results are good, they don't pipe up. And I think for me, if you really genuinely believe that, then you've got to think about it the whole time and keep building your kind of protest and keep building your movement, even when results are going well. So, listen, people have been wanting ENIC and Levy out for many, many years, but when Spurs were doing really well or came second in the league or third in the league, and when we got to the Champions League, not a peep. And I guess it's human nature, of course. You can't be seen to be complaining when really at that point you've got to give credit to the chairman, haven't you, for the way that he's built the club up to enable that club to at least, even if you think it was all Pochettino, which, I think a lot of it was down to Pochettino, but you've got to at least credit the chairman with bringing Pochettino in. However, now that the results are going badly again and the pressure is on Ange Postecoglu, then everyone pipes up again. Well, it's got to be the case all the time. And now, I'm not saying that people aren't on social media kind of Levy in or Levy out all the time. They kind of are. But in terms of actually building a proper movement that would really genuinely put pressure on that ownership outside Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it can't be something that just comes up when the results are going badly. It's got to be something that you build over a genuine period of time. You've got to be there every game. You've got to be there every week. You've got to be the biggest news story. You've got to be everything. But unfortunately for you guys, and I'm not condoning it. It's not for me. I don't think it's as simple as that. I think it's a very nuanced subject. There are things, of course, especially in terms of decision-making, that Levy and ENIC have got terribly wrong, and in terms of the optics and the way that the club is made to look sometimes. But also, at the same time, I personally think you have to give them credit for building this club to a place where fans are incredibly angry that we're not winning things. Because when they took over, Spurs were not a club built to win things at that point. I'm sorry, they just weren't. They were in a terrible place. So, look, I understand your situation, and absolutely, you should protest if that's how you feel, but you have to do it every single game. You have to do it home and away. You have to do it every day if you can. It has to be the main thing in your life if you genuinely want to create change. And unfortunately, every time I've seen this come up over the last 10, 15 years, it's been maybe maximum 100 people at a time holding a big banner outside the ground, and Sky go down there and the BBC go down there to try and get a story, but they don't even really feel like the story's strong enough to really promote. And I'd say one thing, look at what Newcastle did with Mike Ashley. They really made a movement. They really made it difficult for Mike Ashley. They made it horrible for him. And I just don't know if the feeling is as strong at Tottenham against Levy and ENIC as it was, say, at Newcastle with Mike Ashley. The other team you could look at in the modern day is Liverpool. Their fans don't like FSG, but the results are good enough all the time where the fans never really pipe up loud enough and they never get a protest together that really means anything. So all I'm saying is, yes, you absolutely have the right to do it. And if you feel strongly enough, absolutely do it. But people organising it or people saying do it from on their kind of X handles or their Twitter handles who don't even go to the games, that's not real. That's not real. If you feel that strongly about it, you've got to get down there. You've got to actually do it. Social media is never going to end an ownership. It's really not. It's got to be genuinely uncomfortable for those people and make them think, is it worth it in my life to have this? Go to my work every day and have people screaming at me and shouting at me and telling me we don't want you there. And so far, I just haven't seen enough of that with the kind of ENIC out movement. So that's all I'm saying. But just so you know, I'm not saying you don't have any right to feel the way you feel. You absolutely do, and you have the right to protest, but you got to mean it. Some media reports, as I mentioned in the opening, suggesting that Tottenham are indeed succession planning for the end of Ange Postecoglu's reign, whenever that may be. And these reports are suggesting that Ipswich's Kieran McKenna is high up on the list to replace him if we part company with Ange. Obviously, he's an ex-Spurs player, he's an ex-Spurs coach. He does like progressive football, and he has been looked at by the biggest clubs around, the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea and Manchester United back in the summer, or when they were last replacing their coaches. So McKenna is high on the list. I guess that's not a surprise. He plays good football at Ipswich, but for me, and let me know what you think in the comments, guys. And I don't want Ange out, so that's not what I'm saying. But I think succession planning is a good idea all the time. It's something that Brighton do brilliantly, and it's something that Tottenham need to be doing, and that's something that Scott Munn and Johan Lange need to have on their list of things to do. But I just want to talk about one thing and hear what you guys think about it in the comments. Just playing devil's advocate a bit here, and I'm not saying I want Ange out, but just playing devil's advocate. When Steven Gerrard was at Aston Villa, a lot of the pundits and a lot of people in the media, when they sacked him, were saying they didn't give him enough time, and he could have done it. He could have got it going right. He could have improved the situation. He'd done brilliantly at Rangers, winning the league there for the first time in a number of years, and a lot of people getting behind Steven Gerrard. But then Emery came in, and he came in kind of with a lot of people thinking, oh, well, you failed at Arsenal. Obviously did an incredible job at Sevilla over the years, winning loads of UEFA Cups, Europa Leagues. But a lot of people thinking, oh, this won't work out. And then it just so happened they picked the right manager at the right time. Emery, absolutely perfect for that club and changed things. We're talking about a team who were in the Championship just a few years ago, and a team who, was struggling, relegation struggling under Steven Gerrard. Then Emery comes in, and it coincides with when they brought in Monchi, I think, who had previously been the Sevilla sporting director. And suddenly the players are bought for Emery, and he gets them believing, and he gets them playing in a way. And within a season and a half, or 2 seasons, he's got them qualified for the Champions League. So I'm just playing devil's advocate a bit. Listen, I want to stick by Ange. I don't think personally there's anyone out there who definitely makes me think they could do for Spurs what Emery has done for Aston Villa. But just playing devil's advocate a bit, it's not always as clear cut as you think. And there are people out there who can be the right managers at the right time. So I can see why the club is succession planning. I think it's definitely an important thing to do, considering how many times recently in the last few years when we've lost managers, we've taken like 150 days to find a new one or something ridiculous. Also, obviously, it's gone the other way. When we let Pochettino go, we clearly already had Mourinho lined up, similar with Nuno and Conte. But I'm just saying there are two sides to every story. My personal feeling is we've got to stick with Ange. He's got a lot of things going against him at the moment, but there are other possibilities out there. So let me know what you think in the comments. Are there people out there who you think would do a job for Spurs like Emery has done at Aston Villa right now? Don't forget, Tottenham are a highly sought-after manager's job. There are lots of managers out there who would love to be the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. So there are other options out there. But for me, at the moment, I don't think it's right to let go of Ange. And I think, unless we really slip appallingly over the next month or two, and it is possible in the league. But I think the League Cup game against Manchester United is huge, obviously, and then an FA Cup run and staying in the Europa League is vital to his chances of staying in the job. Talking of Postecoglu, just a few quotes came out from him after the game at the weekend. He said, "I don't sense anybody is feeling sorry for themselves. It's a tough moment because there are all these tools you can possibly use as a manager when you're going through tough moments to turn things around, and our limited resources from a playing perspective. Every time we've seemed like we're on solid footing, something has come along which will become an impediment for us to do that. It's just the way our season has gone so far. It went like that last year. It's not like since I've been here, this is unusual territory. Ultimately, my role now is to focus on the things I can control and keep preparing the team the best we can to progress as a football team and turn our season around." I'll say again what I said to Yori on the video yesterday, and thank you all for your comments on the video with Yori. I'm glad you really enjoyed that. I love speaking to Yori, such a calm thinker. But as I said to him yesterday, my big worry with Ange is the injuries and how responsible his methods are for those injuries. And that has to change. He has to tweak. The Premier League is different. He's not got enough players to play this way and to train this way. And I fear for Ange, if he doesn't make those tweaks, he will lose his job. Son Heung-min also came out with some quotes. He said, "We all care. We all care about where we are now, and we all care about these results. Some people may think in a different way, maybe that we don't care, but we really care about this club. Everyone's working hard every single day. Maybe you don't see that behind the scenes, but everyone is working really hard to get it right." Nice quotes from Sonny, but you'd expect that from the captain, wouldn't you? We've talked about this already, but obviously the news came out that Romero will be out for up to 6 weeks with that thigh muscle injury. That means he misses the entirety of the Christmas period. That is a huge blow for Spurs, but I'm confident that Dragusin can come in, and he keeps improving, I think, Dragusin, when he plays on the right side of those two centre-backs. And I think he could do well alongside Mickey van der Ven. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. Vicario is expected to return in February. There is actually a chance, I think, that in February we could get a lot of those players back. Odegaard, Vicario, Romero, and maybe, hopefully then, if we can still be in all those cup competitions come February, then maybe we can really push on to have a good end of the season. And then just finally, just thought I'd bring you the quote from after the game from Jamie Redknapp on Ange Postecoglu, seeing as we've been talking about Postecoglu's future. I don't know whether you rate Redknapp as a pundit or not, but clearly, he's played in the Premier League for a long time. He's been a pundit for a long time, and he's Harry Redknapp's son. And as a result, I do find Redknapp is always a little bit anti Spurs, certainly when it comes to the boardroom. I think he's still angry that his dad was sacked after doing a good job there. But he is worth listening to. Redknapp said this: "They have to win a trophy. That's the stick they are beaten with. If they win a trophy this year, it will give them confidence and belief that they can go and get top 4. They need to change the history of this club. For too long, they've had an attitude of not being successful and letting people down. Whereas if they win a trophy, it will give Ange a bit of breathing space. They've got Man United in the Carabao Cup. They can win that. If you look at the winners of that trophy recently, it's either been Man City, Man United, or Liverpool. Winning that is more important than finishing top 4. The owners may disagree, but it would be great for the fan base and the players. For a Spurs fan, they had Conte, who was pragmatic. They had Jose, it didn't work, and they had Nuno, and it didn't work either. Now you've got the complete opposite end of the scale. And for Spurs fans, for 10, 15 games last season, they thought, this is it. We found it. This guy, meaning Postecoglu, is going to make us play beautiful football, expansive, and we're going to win. You've gone from one extreme to the other, and it feels like we've said the same thing for the last 10 years of coming to watch Tottenham. I just don't know really which way they're going to go next, because if you sack him, then where else do you go?" The thing that frustrates me a little bit about that, and let me know what you think in the comments, people are talking now as if 5 years ago, Tottenham weren't in a Champions League final, and 6 years ago, Tottenham didn't come second in the league. Like, it's not the same for the last 15 years. Pochettino did wonders at this club, and Spurs became a club that everybody feared. So yes, we've regressed since then, but don't forget about that. Don't forget how good we were and how close we came. And yes, we didn't win any trophies, but we got close. And we're the closest any club, other than Leicester and the fairy tale, obviously, but we're the closest that any club who've tried to do it sustainably have come to winning any trophies. Arguably other than maybe Liverpool, but Liverpool have a very specific situation because they are a legacy club with an enormous fan base around the world. So they get money in more on the scale of Manchester United, of being a legacy club who've been one of the biggest clubs in the world for the last 50, 60, 70 years. So that's different. But that's the thing that frustrates me about Redknapp's comments there. Other than that, I think it's true. I think we should go for the Carabao Cup, and that if we could lift a trophy, then that would take the pressure off and enable us to feel what winning counts as and what it means. But I've said it all week, in the form we're in at the moment, and whenever we face adversity, our chances of actually performing in a big match, our chances of beating Man United in a big game at home for the Carabao Cup quarter-final, I'm not that confident, I have to say, but I hope to be proven wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Do give this video a like. Please do press subscribe, guys. I'm getting closer to 12,000 subscribers. Really want to get to 12,000 before Christmas if I can. So if you're not a subscriber and you like daily Spurs content and Premier League transfer content as well as we get closer to January, please do press that subscribe button and try and enjoy your hump day if you can. Don't get too nervous about that Rangers game tomorrow. I know I said at the top that I'm nervous about it. I am, but I hope to be proven that I know nothing about ball and that Ange Postecoglu will go there and turn them over easily and get in their faces as a former Celtic manager. Come on, you Spurs.